Hello, everyone. My name is Mary Goodman. I am the co-founder and the Chief Branding Officer at Dentist Job Connect, and I am so excited today to bring to you women leaders who are creating meaningful change in the dental world. I have with us today Ann Duffy, who's the CEO and founder of Women's Dental Entrepreneur Group. I have Manal Sampat, leading marketing strategist. Dee Fisher, CEO and founder of the Fisher Professional Group, and Dr. Victoria Peterson, co-founder and CEO of the Productive Dentist Academy. Ladies, I'd like to welcome you all to the stage.
Hi, Mary.
Hi.
Thanks for having us.
Of course, it's so nice to all be together. Ann Duffy, I would like to start with you today. Thank you, first of all, for inspiring Amanda and I. We were at your Do Retreat recently, and one of your messages was the importance of lifting up other women and, taking action together and supporting each other. And we left saying, we met all these incredible people. We have to find a way to share them with our community. So that's how this idea was started.
It's beautiful. Thank you. You've got such a great community that you have built. And as we all believe, if we work together, we can do great things in dentistry.
Yes. Well, I'm happy to be part of your community. Would you tell us a little bit about Do and your mission and what inspired you to start this community?
Well, thanks for asking, Mary. I have been in dentistry for 46 years, or actually clinically 46 years, and now I guess 48, 49 years in this industry. And I've known a lot of women in the industry during the different side gigs that I've had. I've practiced dental hygiene for 46 years, as I said, and then I have 7 state boards, worked all over. The side gigs presented me with the opportunity to work with amazing women in the industry. And I found there was a common thread that women were not getting the respect that they deserved, the money that they deserved, the opportunities in the C-suites and even on the main stage. And one Thursday afternoon, I called a good friend. She was crying because she was humiliated and just upset over how her boss wrote in her review that her smile was insincere and it looked like she was plotting something. And that was just insane to me. It was a knee-jerk reaction. I said, oh my gosh, Sue, I am going to start something to lift women in dentistry, to highlight the amazing women in dentistry that we know are smart, they're driven, they love beauty, they are caring, and there is a time for that. And that's how I started Do Life. I decided to call it Dental Entrepreneur because I already had a magazine called Dental Entrepreneur. So I decided to call it Dental Entrepreneur Woman. And actually, the rest is history. Good do's do find good do's, and here we are.
I love that. Dr. Victoria Peterson, you've created a business that elevates women and men and takes them to the next level. Please share with us a little bit about your mission and your inspiration.
Yeah, my partner, Dr. Bruce Baird, and I created Productive Dentist Academy in 2004. And what Bruce and I knew that we had in common that was somewhat unique among the consulting world was that we took a clinical first approach and taught dentists how to move from the identification stage of diagnostics. That's what we're taught in dental school is I need to find a crown, right? I need to identify a tooth that needs a root canal. And we really embraced Dr. John Kois and Frank Spear's philosophies of risk factors and diagnosing by risk factors. But no one was teaching the dental teams how to communicate that. It was very scientific. It was very academic and well-researched. If you know John Kois, it's going to be well-researched. And in 2004, we were still at the pre-dawn age of oral systemic links, that was still being debated. And we brought a style of communication and a style of scheduling for productivity. And it actually turned the world on its ear because we slow offices down and we create a critical path for developing relationships. And so everything we've done, this is our 20th year. We're so excited. We have 40 employees coast to coast. We say we're from Honolulu to Nova Scotia, and people who have brick and mortar companies kind of scratch their head on how we run so well virtually. But we have blossomed from a seminar, a standalone seminar that is still going today, to a full ad agency that does branding and story branding and scripting. And if you want to wrap your car, we'll wrap your car. We'll do it all. And the premise of everyone who has come to work here, it's why I love my work with Do, is we give people space to be human and to be authentic. And I think when I get the question of, like, technical questions, how do I drop PPOs or how do I improve fees? It always comes back to find your authentic center, be who you really are, and then let the world know about it. Because once the world knows who you are, they're going to want more of it. And that's how I practice as a leader, is there are no defects in people, just none, but there are defects in our system. So maybe we had a defect in our hiring process and we put the right person in the wrong role. And I think that's what I love about Dentist Job Connect too. You have such deep relationships with the candidates, and you have deep knowledge of the practices that you're placing people. And that's uncommon, Mary. It's uncommon that you take the time to care. And
Thank you. Well,
Yeah.
relationships are like at the heart of what we do.
yeah,
So thank you. Minal Sampat, you are a best-selling author, speaker, marketing strategist. Tell us about what inspired you to start this journey and what your mission is.
It kind of fell in my lap in a weird way. I think for many of us, we start this. I was always in marketing. I studied marketing in college. I was a communication and biology major. So it was between marketing or dental. There was no other in between. And I'm just lucky to do both at the same time and actually live what I studied, today. But no, I was working in an amazing practice in New Jersey. That's who hired me. They hired me during 2008, during the recession, when nobody was hiring, and they were not even supposed to hire me. I remember graduating in 08, telling my Indian father that I'm not going to be a doctor. I decided not to go to dental school, which is, the stereotypes are true, guys. We can be doctors, engineers, or business owners. We have no other options. So he's like, well, you better figure this out, honey. So it's 2008. And I remember like faxing my resumes to like all these people when fax was a thing. And this practice called me and they are like, we're not hiring. And I shadowed them when I was pre-dental at Rutgers. But come in at noon, have lunch with us. And you'd never say no to a networking opportunity, as we know. So I showed up, and the next thing I know is I'm being interviewed. And then after that, the owner of this gigantic 25,000 patients comes in, and he's like, we have no idea what you're going to do, but we just like you. So we're just going to hire you, and we're just going to see where you fit in. And that's how I actually got started. And then one thing led to another, and the things I was doing were working. And then in 2013, I kind of went up to him and I said, hey, so this is working, and I kind of want to do it with other people. And he said, great, let me write you a check. Let's do this. And, so for me, it was something where I was just been in a very good industry with supportive, amazing people. And this is why I love the nachos community, because everybody is just so incredibly giving and supportive and kind, and that's the kind of environment that I came into. And I'm just very blessed to be in that environment today.
Oh, thanks so much. We're so happy to have you too. Dee Fisher, you are recognized as a leader in the DSO space and also a mentor. Tell us about your mission and what inspired you to start the Fisher Professional Group.
So thanks for having me, and I'm humbled to be with these ladies on this panel. I mean, they're just so all wonderful. For me, I'm kind of like Manal. I had a European dad that said either a doctor or a doctor. There was no other. And I said, well, I'll do dentistry because a lot of my family was cardiologists. So I don't look good at jail. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do good there. So started that route, and then, got in dental, and then I didn't really, want to be a dentist. So I went back to business and just kind of played around with it, and realized quickly that I can open, dental offices and be productive. But I also realized really quickly I wasn't going to get a seat at the table with the men. Now, I grew up with 3 brothers, and my dad, I was very blessed because my dad said you could do anything and better than them. And I was really focused, I'm going to sit at the board table. I'm going to do it. And you know what? If I have to create my own table, then that's what I'm going to do. And my mission was to bring other women with me. Because I was in a space where there really wasn't too many women, to say the least. But I clawed my way and took a lot of great people with me, and they supported me, and they were, very much behind me. And I realized really quickly, a lot of dentists were getting into debt very quickly at a young age, and really struggling to pay off that debt, and really became disheartened. And I made a promise to myself that once I was able to pay off my debt, create my companies, they was going to give back. And my give back was to take the women with me and the men with me that were young and developing, and make them true entrepreneurs and be able to be at the board table. So that was my mission. And, I know it sounds crazy. Me and Ann had this conversation the other day. We've been in dentistry a long time. But I'm proud of the run of everybody that's on this call, that we love men and we love women, but we realized there was a higher purpose for us. I think each and every one of us. And let's work with our counterparts as men, but let's give the woman the seat at the table. And so that's kind of where my mission went. And that's why I created, my company. And I'm proud to say, one of the things is that I can reach out to any one of these ladies that's on this call and say, I need help, and not to be afraid to say that. Where I think sometimes at the board table, we're not allowed to say that. Right. So I think that's the difference here. And we were able, all of us on this call, to elevate each other. So that's where the mentorship comes in for me. And, seeing those young faces come through, look, can I send someone to Manal? She would love her and take her. Ann would love her and take her. Dr. Pete, love her and take her. And so that's what's so great about this community, and about, Den and Nachos. We're really here for all people. But come on, we got to take care of our sisters.
Mhm, mhm.
It's
It's beautiful.
I love that. That is beautiful. You four are all such huge role models to women in the dental space. Success doesn't come overnight. What is one decision you've made or an action you took that made the biggest impact in your journey?
Yeah, I was thinking about that, Mary. I would say, oh gosh, so many. Never give up. That is, I think it never occurred to me to give up. What a lot of people know now about me is I flunked my national boards as a hygienist. It never, ever occurred to me not to take another board, not to finish that. And then moving 10 times, I had to take 7 more state boards. It never occurred to me not to take the board. It was just facing the fear because it was important, and I did love the profession. And so I think that's just saying, yes, I'll never quit, and just keep going. I guess having the faith in myself too. I look back on that, and that's a strong mark in my favor.
I love that. Now,
This isn't going viral, by the way, is it? Because I don't really want everybody to know that. Okay, so this is a vault. Is this a vault? No, I don't have. We're streaming live. All right, thank you. Never mind.
I mean, for me, first of all, it's an honor to be here, because Ann, Dee, Victoria, they are the leaders. They have put this path for people like me who started our careers just 10 years ago. So kind of grew up watching them and getting inspired by them. So this is an absolute honor that I'm even here on this amazing panel. But one of the things that I realized growing up as a millennial was that we are somehow almost addicted to ourselves compared to others. It's a part of our just growing up, because we grew up with this, and this is how we live life. But what I realized is that the biggest change that I would ask anyone to make is to show up in real life, to show up at events, at meetings, to these webinars, not just be behind the scenes, behind the computer, behind your phone, because the real conversations, the real interaction, the real growth happens like this when you show up. And I always say that show up and give before you ask. Don't just show up and start for asking. Show up, and the first thing you should say is, how can I help you? How may I serve you? What can I do for you? And you have that amazing relationship now. And this is what Dee said, is we can call out each one of us in here on the phone, send them a text, send them a DM, be like, hey, I'm doing this, right? Like they just shared some amazing stuff before we got on today. And that's because we do that to each other. And I would recommend that no matter if you're a millennial, because I hear this from millennial a lot, can't I just do this on my phone? No, show up and ask, how can I help you? And then go into everything else.
I love that.
That
Yeah.
I took that away too. Victoria, how about you?
Oh, so many lessons. My journey is a lot like yours, Anne. I started out as a hygienist, but then I worked in a Tony Robbins organization that had a really high energy, and lived in Atlanta and had clients in Connecticut. So I was working virtually. This is hilarious, like in 1995, because so I think entrepreneurs and entrepreneur women, it doesn't occur to us to not do uncommon, stupid things. It's just like we're wired in this way, and it seems really common. But I think the biggest lesson that I had to learn growing up in the South, good girls don't, and children are quiet, and all of those the things that make me a Southern belle, which I love, but it really put me on a destructive path of people pleasing. And I remember reading the book somewhere around 2008 when the market was crashing, and it was called Sacred Cows, like killing the sacred cow. And Garrett Gunderson was really brilliant in that moment. And I went back and looked at that book recently, like he was predicting cryptocurrency and the big changes that were coming along. And I had never heard of cryptocurrency or blockchain. And now it's like, of course it's there. And so I've been on a path of challenging my sacred cows. What are the things that put blinders on me? Like you said, Manal, am I so blinded to what I think my image is that I am too afraid to go out and network? And so constantly challenging my worldview, challenging my habits, my good ones, my bad ones, my addictions, my negative self-talk. Entrepreneurship, make no doubt about it, it's addictive. And we are all high. I'm not going to speak for you. I'm high strung, and I have a hard time turning it off. And so, work-life balance, it starts right here. And so everybody that I mentor or works for us, I say, first of all, we've got to figure out, where are you on the scale of people pleasing? Because you can't show up to this job and say, you can't yes ma'am me and tell me you're going to do something and then not do it. And so that's another piece of being authentic. And we talk about empowering people, but I can empower you to do something, or I can empower you to discover your best and then give more of that. And you may continue working with me, or you may go do something else. I love it, Manal, that your doctor said, here, let's write a check. Deborah Gray King, amazing female entrepreneur in Atlanta, Georgia, the first female fellow of the AACD. I was blessed to work with her. When I told her what I wanted to do, she said, how can I support? Let's do this. So you expect people that work with you and for you to elevate and grow and evolve and do more things. But I think it starts with learning how to kill your own sacred cows in yourself and in your company. I periodically cannibalize just different parts of the company, and everybody's like, I thought it was so good. And I was like, yeah, I know, but that was so yesterday. And so it's probably what keeps it fresh after 20 years, is it's never the same. It's never the same.
That's awesome advice. Thank you. Dee.
So for me, it was a very, I remember it like yesterday. It was a moment when I realized the journey was not about me. Wasn't. I realized that, was I really opening the door and listening and having a fulfillment mindset? So when I learned the journey wasn't about me, the journey got a whole lot easier. I don't see now, look, I do conferences with other people. I welcome them in. I don't see them as my competition. I see them as people lifting me up. So to me, I realized, like one of the examples I'll give you, I did a conference, one of my own conferences. I just bring my teams together, and we had two businesses, two young women entrepreneurs, and they were struggling and they didn't have money for sponsorship. And I said, this isn't about me. This is about you guys. Come on in, set up your tables, let's start your business. So the journey in my mind isn't about me. It's about what are you going to do for others and how are you going to bring them along? Because if you do that, your journey is going to be very fulfilled. So it was a very a moment sitting in my office and saying, okay, we have 68 offices. This is getting really hard because I wasn't willing to be vulnerable. So I think, that's how I see it. And to me, it was a life-changing moment. And I remember it. I remember the day. I remember what my desk looked like. So I always say, everybody, the journey's not about me. It's about, it's about others.
I love that. Thank you. My next question is, how did you overcome gender-related obstacles in the dental world?
Can I jump in there first? This just happened yesterday.
Sure.
I used to be polite. I used to just dismiss it, let it go by. Boys will be boys. But yeah, I was on a call yesterday and the gentleman said, I hope you don't think that I brought you in here to scold you. I said, because there's a lot of mansplaining going on, and it was all very educational. It was a very good conversation. But as women, sometimes stray thoughts will just come and hit your ear. And that one hit my ear. So three different men spoke before it was even my turn. And I thought, what is my opening shot? And my opening shot was, first of all, I want to address the concept that I would even feel like I could be scolded, or that I would ever be brought into a partner's office to be scolded. Because in my world, that, gentlemen, would never happen. So thank you for addressing that this is a business conversation and we've got serious decisions to make, but I will never be called in your office to be scolded. And I'll have to tell you, that was 30 years of therapy speaking. That was like, I was so scared. And yet I knew that relationship would be biased from that point forward if I didn't take a stand. And if something like that were going to break the relationship, then I didn't need that person as a partner. And if I can encourage anybody here, having the courage to say things like that very politely, but taking a stand, it lets everybody know that I'm an equal. Like, you're not my school principal. You're not my father. I would never be scolded. So thanks for letting me jump in here. It was just like less than 24 hours. It's still happening moment by moment every day.
Yeah, goosebumps.
Wow. But the fact that, you were able to say that with such confidence and it just came from you shows what just your journey has taken to you and that confidence you've developed in yourself. And that's just so inspirational.
That might be menopause also.
I just want to say on this too, though, this is what happened yesterday in our Do Connect. I mean, we had an issue with one of the gals, and women coming together, like Victoria, when you said that, that's good for us to remember that phrase, because we have to arm ourselves with phrases like that, because you're stunned in the moment. And that's why the answer is in the ladies' room. So that helped me. I'm writing it down, and we need each other to say that, we're not crazy, and it won't take you 30 years to get there, right? Because we're trying to help the young women.
We don't have 30 years. So
yeah,
thank God for Dee and you and Manal and all of us who've been willing to skin our knees. And times are, I'm actually finding men are very amenable when women stand in their power. They're like, welcome to the conversation.
I think one of the things, I had a great mentor, and I would say this, and I was struggling with it early on, and he said, watch the room. I said, what do you mean? He said, watch the room. So he taught me, watch how the men walk in the room and watch what they do. So I learned posture, body language, and words. So I remember the first time I did it, I walked right in that room and I shook their hand and I said, I'm Dee Fisher and I'm going to let you know I'm here. And I had posture and I had body language, and they were just like, wow, where did she come from? I teach young women posture, body language is really, and you use your words. And that's exactly what you did. Use your words. It's like, okay, you know what? And it's so funny. You watch some great leaders, right? And they'll be very submissive, but when they stand to speak, they stand up straight and they use great words. And we pay attention. And so he had me watch all these films, and I kept saying, I'm so tired of watching these films. No, but you're really learning from it. So the biggest thing that I say is to overcome that. Walk in, own you, know who you are. Okay. And you're very intelligent. We're very capable, and stand on your own 2 feet. So, and you got to practice that. The right hand, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, that sounds easy, but it's not. Like, you got to
Yeah.
do it in the mirror. You got to get a girlfriend. Get a couple bottles of wine. I don't know. But it's not easy.
And wear pointed shoes. Who taught us
That's
that?
Manal.
Yeah. Did you teach us, Manal,
High
that
heels, high
round-
heels. You know what to take out.
Yeah. Didn't you teach us that round-toed shoes were non-dominant and pointed shoes were dominant? So if you're not feeling confident, I wear pointed shoes with block heels because I'm clumsy. I'm not human. Oh, you can rock this.
How can you
know,
Texas,
it's
wear,
so,
wear those
like-
Texas boots?
Yeah,
had,
Courtney.
one of my first speaking engagements. So this is in like 2014 time. I was invited by the study group to do a talk on social media. And I remember going in, and it was literally 98% men and senior men, most of them, 98% of them. Now, they invited me to speak, right? But I remember walking in, and I had just been featured in Huffington Post. So what I had done, because the meeting planner said, hey, can you make sure you give them something like a handout of some sort? So it was an interview on Huffington Post on dental marketing. So I'm like, this is great, and this will help me establish credibility, because I'm a 20-something-year-old walking into this room being like, look at me, I'm a speaker, you know? So I already had that like anxiety and the jitters, and like one of my first speaking engagements. And I remember going in, and it was funny because I was just talking and making my rounds. You always show up a little bit early and, you know, read the room, as Dee said. And I remember this gentleman who took my article, crumpled it up, and threw it in the trash, and was like, this is all, you know, this is all bullshit, and I don't know what we are doing here, kind of thing. And then I realized I'm sitting at his table as a speaker, because it was right in the front. Now, there were literally, except for me, there were 2 other women in this room, and those 2 women were sponsors. So here I am, and I kind of remember in that moment, I don't know how many guys of you have read the book, The Help. Maybe you've seen the movie. Mm-hmm. And I was finishing reading this book, and in that book, there was a quote that said, are you going to let them fools ruin your day? And I remember thinking that and standing in the zone, am I going to let this one fool ruin my day of being here, of speaking, of making my way up to this? No. So I did what you guys all told me, is stand in my power, show them what I know, the knowledge. Well, he hired me afterwards, became one of my long-lasting clients, and still sends me referrals. So anybody who's listening to this, everything Ann, Dee, and Victoria said works. Stand in your power, and don't let some one person or somebody who doesn't get it, or who looks at you as somebody being inferior, don't let them ruin your day. Just be who you are, be in your power, share what you know, and your wisdom will get to them, because they have to, right?
That's amazing. It's funny, right before you got on, Anne and Dee and Victoria, Manal was asking me what my most memorable takeaway was from the Do Retreat. And I said it was when we kind of went off script and we were talking about what you said, Dee, the actual words to say, and having those words already ready is huge. That was just my most memorable part. Everyone went around the room and shared like what words they would use to say to stand up for themselves.
Oh, that is so good, Mary. I'm so glad we're getting that document put together. We had a lot of that from yesterday, and then also just to remain calm. You know, so often we jump, and you know, I've learned all this from the women. So I think some of us, again, we learn from each other, and it's also hard to believe that some of these things are happening. Like Victoria, would I just even hear those words being said to you at the level and the status that you have. It's insane. And now I know why Dee's always, I mean, this is the thing I love about her. She's like the only woman sitting on the panel with all the guys. And I didn't realize that you've been doing that for years, Dee. So I'm going to take away that from you today as well.
Yeah,
And
man.
Manal, you just, gosh, seen you grow and just and own the room and the stage.
And I think
Yeah.
one thing that I learned was I had one of the doctors came up to me I remember it was at the Midwinter one year we were talking about this. And he said, "Can I just give you a different perspective?" And I said, "Absolutely." He said, "You have to understand something. We only know what we know. We as men were taught to be like this." And he's like, "It's a little bit of your responsibility maybe to reteach us."
Mhm.
And I took a minute. And I listened to his perspective, and he said, "I love women, and I think women are intelligent. I got 4 daughters." He's like, and I sat down with my daughters and said, this is how we were brought up in this world, and this is what we know. So it's truly not our fault because this is what we were taught. So just reteach me, recoach me, because we are coachable. You know what? When he said that to me, it gave me a different perspective and said, you know what? Yes, they're right. Because back in the day, my mom was taught to be a homemaker and she was an entrepreneur. She was seen as someone really out of the box, right? So I
Mhm.
think sometimes we have to keep that in mind. Like, this is what doesn't make it right or wrong, right? They only know what they know. And don't we all go in and teach and say they only know what they know? Right. And we have to, as coaches, take it to the next level. So sometimes I do reflect on that statement a little bit.
Yeah.
But that's why I think we have to take like our young women and our young people and just keep re-educating. I think it's just so important.
Mhm.
That so much, Dee, because some of this is it's patterns, it's habits, it's society telling us who we need to be, and taking the gender out of it really helps. I had this view that I should replace myself in my own company and in leadership roles with another woman, right? Because women will be whatever attributes I thought I was, right? And I was attributing that to female. So I brought in a strong female leader that really took my company nearly to the edge of bankruptcy and had to make a change and get her out and reclaim the culture. We were emotionally bankrupt. We weren't financially bankrupt, and it was pandemic time, but we were emotionally bankrupt as a team. And it's taken years to bring that back. So I have learned that it is about character. It is not about gender. It is about values and worldview and how you align. And so we've done a lot of deeper culture work. And I don't know if you've ever had anybody ever done employer net promoter scores on yourself. Like we do it for our clients, but doing it on yourself, that's a whole different world. And just being totally vulnerable and transparent. Our client success was still 95%. Everybody's happy. Clients are really well taken care of. But internally, we dropped to a 7 on a scale of 100. And for service industries like ours, 32 would get you in, Inc. 5,000 best places to work. So we were at a 7, and we worked really hard for a year to climb all the way back to a 12. And then we worked really hard for a year. And our latest survey says we're at a 28, and all the toxic stuff is gone. But, people are heart-driven, soul-driven beings, and when you break someone's trust, it is felt emotionally. And I think that's the gift of women in leadership. I think that's what Dee, you were speaking about, of what we have to teach is it's okay to say, man, I really messed that one up. Let's make a change, and let's come in here and let's do it together. Let's do it better next time. So, I know my reputation seems, like whatever, I'm golden, in my own mind. But reality is we all have things to work on, and being a leader and being willing to be vulnerable and ask it was painful. It was painful to hear, how things were going. And so anyway, thanks for
But you didn't quit. You didn't quit, right? And then I love also what
I
Dee
don't
was
have
saying.
quit in me.
Yeah, exactly. Women. But I also like the fact that be gentle.
Yeah.
Like we have to teach them. I like be gentle with them, right? Because, I think we have that. There's something about feminine leadership that we do care. We
Mhm.
want to keep people whole. And
Yeah.
we're in tune to that.
That's a
And
great
you
point,
look at
Anne.
it, and you look at it, and you say this, and like I said, I always think about this a lot because I do sit on the panels with the men, and I will tell you, the men get just as nervous as us, if not more nervous. And they're like, "Well, we'll ask Dee that, or we'll ask that." But you know, there's so many men that are in our industry that have great hearts. They
Mhm.
really do. And you know, it's a fine line here. You know, someone asked me one time, you know, who would you hire for your company? You hire a woman? No, I'm going to hire the best person, because if I hire the best person, they're going to elevate women in my company. So just, you know, we all have hearts, we all have emotions, and we have to be a sisterhood to back our younger sisters coming up. But I think, like I said, teachable moments is what's going to really finally make that difference. And you go back, don't be afraid to ask for the salary. Don't be afraid to ask for what you need. And we teach that to our young men too.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's important.
So we're all interested in growing as dentists, entrepreneurs, dentisting humans. What is one barrier to growth you see for dental entrepreneurs? And what is your advice for how we can overcome it?
I think I'll start again, I guess, if that's okay. But I think being alone, and I think you get you siloed. You know, we need a community, and just to tell us, you know, to bounce ideas off of, to bring us up when we're having a bad day. Because as we all know, as entrepreneurs and even intrapreneurs, because this is the other thing I like to mention. Especially women take every job they've ever had as they own that job, and at least those are the women that we seem to collect here. And so, you know, you just have to continue to realize that it is okay to reach out to people and build your community and stay your community. And I love what you said, Manal. You got to show up. You can't, like, a lot of times people will join something, but they don't dive in. They don't dip into the goodness of that community. That doesn't bring you back anything. And so I do believe that we have to welcome with open arms, and people can come if they want, and maybe feel our love, the love that we have, not only for ourselves, but for each other. And they may stay and they may not, but that's okay. We'll love you next year. Maybe next year will be your year to come into our community. And I also wanted to say something about the men and how we handle it. We have all these dudes now because the guys want to be part of what we're doing. And so we say a dude is a man that supports a woman in dentistry. And there, to your point, there are wonderful men in this profession. I mean, I just met David Port the other day with Victoria, and we know, you know, and Paul, he's a dude. I told him, I think he's number 80 or something, but that's because I only met him then. But I mean, that is the thing, is just the community of all of us coming together. And that's how our profession is going to soar. There's so much potential.
You know, from the entrepreneur side, for me, so I was born in India and I grew up in the Virgin Islands. And my parents moved in their 40s from India to the US Virgin Islands, and we had a very comfortable life in India. I mean, it was super comfortable, but they left all of that to come to this country. And one of the things that I saw them hustling. I saw them being entrepreneurs. I saw them opening from scratch, right? Like my father, who had never worked for somebody else in his life, who was a business owner, was working for somebody else. But the goal was always to become an entrepreneur, to become a business owner. One of the things that I think a lot of the entrepreneurs, first of all, we give up our 8 to 5 so we can work 80 hours a week. It's just,
Yeah.
we for some reason we hate ourselves. We want to do that. I don't know, or we just love it, and that's what drives me, right? Like there is no such thing as work-life balance, because work is a part of my life. Like it's not like I'm going to be at dinner and not have a conversation about something if I want to have a conversation, because it's part of my life. But I think one of the things that we have to kind of go through is our emotional intelligence and our ability to roll with the punches. Because it's not, to get the high, you have to go through a lot of lows. To get that one success, you have to go through failures. And some of the things that I have, as somebody in my 30s going through this journey, I have realized is that I have some younger people reaching out to me who do feel like they are not good enough, or, oh, this failed, so I must really suck as an entrepreneur. No. You are still amazing. You just have to find a different path, but accept the fact that you will have bad days, and then you will have amazing days too, right? So it is a journey. And I think once we go through that emotional, like just intelligence process and just having a thicker skin and focusing on our why and our goal, you do start to see results. So everybody who's listening, if you're going through that hard times, I'm sure all of us have been through that. If you're going through those hard times, it doesn't mean that you're not good enough. It simply means that you have to change and pivot and look at what's up next and what can you do better and what are your strengths and what do you suck at? Whatever you suck at, delegate it. Don't do it. Focus on what you're good at, right? And you will see success come in.
And I think on the back of that with Mimi, she's talking about emotional. One of the biggest barriers I see, and especially working with some of the universities, is our young people not understanding financials. They don't understand how to work with their money. I have a young pediatric dentist. She came up to me, tears in her eyes, and she's about to graduate. She has $700,000 worth of debt before she gets out of school. And I sat her and said, well, we used money on credit cards. We had a lot of dinners. There's stuff that we did. But I really think it's our obligation to help these young entrepreneurs to understand how to work with their money. And because there'll be so many more great entrepreneurs, because you look at it and you say, I have the emotional intelligence, but I don't have the financial intelligence to do this or the financial wherewithal, right? So I think one of the things that, I look forward to working with everyone on this panel, Ann and I've had some discussions. We need to teach that. We need to teach them what's the greatest bank loan? Where can I get the backing that's not going to cost me millions of dollars, right? Can I call up Dr. Victoria and say, you teach me that clinical part, you teach me that connection. And how does that connection equate to the dollars, right? And I'm just coming from the business sense, because what Mimi and Ann said, if you have love, you have emotional intelligence, and then you have financial intelligence, you're going to soar. And so I remember my first lecture, I'll never forget, one of my first lectures, went out in the audience and I said, okay, how many doctors here are doing 500,000? And we had one or two hands up. I said, how many made 750? And we had more. And then everybody who's making $1 million, and all of them raised their hand. I said, you're a bunch of liars, because you wouldn't be sitting in my seminar if you were all making $1 million. Let's be honest here, right? And everybody just started to laugh. But I think, Mimi and Ann and Dr. Doria, I'm thinking, how do we empower our young women and our young men to understand the financial journey? Because let's be honest, everybody feels uncomfortable when you start talking about money.
Yes.
Right? Don't they? So I just think it's a pathway we really got to start talking about. I really do. So to me, that's a big barrier in our industry. I want to embrace that this year. That's kind of one of the things that I really want to think about is, how do we educate our young women on, where do I start with a financial journey? Right? Because the first mistake, as all of you, can cost you a mistake for 10 and 15 years.
Yeah. It's never too early to start that.
Right. And so that's I see it as a big barrier. And like I said, and I think Dr. Victoria's point is, when she was talking about the clinical connection, when you make that clinical connection and you make those relationships, and if you're feeling healthy financial with that, you're going to soar.
Dee, I'm so glad you brought that up, because that's my piece of advice too. And I have a phrase that says, my net worth is not my self-worth.
Oh, I like that.
So my net worth is not my self-worth. But if I don't take care of my net worth, then my self-worth can plummet. And Manal, I love what you say, my work is my life. When I'm pregnant with my children, I was on 14 weeks bed rest pre-internet, and I lost my glasses. I can't read. I'm blind. I'm pregnant. I'm contracting for 3.5 frickin' months. And so, I don't knit booties. I sent off to the University of Denver School of Business finance course, and I'm studying investments and stocks and bonds and whole life insurance. That's what I'm doing for 14 weeks. And because I was upset with my stockbroker. I wasn't getting the right answer. So I just had my phone and I kept calling Merrill Lynch till I hit somebody in New York and they were like, how did you get my number? I'm like, that's not the question. The question is, am I right? So I was very close to being a CPA. I thought that's what I was going to do before I went to hygiene school. And I can remember when I was a little kid, my dad didn't give us a quarter for allowance. He gave us a little notebook. And if we lost our notebook, we lost all of our money. And every week he put a date and a quarter and we would add it up. And so I learned financials from the time I was 6 years old. And it is so ingrained, and that's such a blessing. I look back on that, right? And I was doing bookkeeping at 13 in the gas station. So I think that finance 101 is the number one thing. When I have the male entrepreneurs aren't any better at this. When they come to PDA, we say, how many of you look at your P&Ls how many of you know what a P&L is? And Dee Dee, they raise their hand. Great, you know what it is. How many of you look at every month? Half the hands go down. How many of you look at a budget versus actual? All the hands go down. And so I think everyone needs to understand your CPA works for you. You don't work for them. And it makes me sad. They're like, well, I haven't gotten my quarterly statements yet. I'm like, oh, you are 6 months behind the ball. So debt reduction, financial security, getting your house in order. I love what Barbara Stackhouse is doing with Profits First, all of that. You have got to go on Udemy. Like if that's your one action today, go on Udemy and do finance for non-finance majors. I used to have my clients read the Wall Street Journal, read business magazines. And here's the fun part. If you're intimidated by that, they're written on a 6th grade reading level. It's 6th grade reading. And if there's words you don't know, you stop and you look them up, because you need to be smarter about your money than the people you trust.
Yeah.
And that way you can vet the people you trust. It's the easiest thing to fix. And it's the most prevalent problem I see amongst entrepreneurs, is that they trust their advisors to tell them what to do. And your CPA is never going to tell you what to do.
Right.
Well,
And
the
you
other,
look at what Mimi said and Anne said, how so much this is tied, right, Anne and Mimi, to our emotional intelligence.
mm-hmm. Well, and it was when Dadine was saying on our learning crew today, is just you have to manifest it in your mind, right? So far, they don't even know how important that is, because it's really hard. If you feel like you're poor, it's hard to get out of that. It's going to be paralyzing. Broke is temporary. You're never going to be, if you've got a dental degree, you're never going to be poor. You're going to make money, but you have to understand how to make it, how to keep it. And it's all up here. A lot of it's up here.
The mindset. I can be $4 million in debt and sleep like a baby at night. I have been $10,000 in debt and freaked out. So it really is about knowing, and that's the thing. The more I treat money, do you guys do this? I treat money like a relationship, like a friend. I don't speak badly about my friends. I don't speak badly about my financial life, because I want to attract more of it. Like, who's going to come to the party if you're afraid of it, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, I love money mindset work. I really do.
It's so funny.
Sorry,
you look across our industry, right? And this is so true, because we all talk about this, right? And I'll walk into an office because I like to be tactical. And the first thing I see, the wonderful people that are sitting, and there are patient advocates, right? And I ask them, I'm like, so what's a large amount of money? And some of them will tell me 100, some of them tell me 10,000. And they're like, doctor, you know why you can't collect? Because she thinks $10 is a lot of money, right? And she's like afraid to ask them. And it's a simple key, but it goes back to like, we're all on this panel here. I don't care. I'm not embarrassed to say it. I started with nothing.
Yep.
I'm not embarrassed to say it. And I did my grit and I did my homework and I learned financially. And when I tell people I started with nothing, they look at me and I said, listen, I started with nothing. I had a lot. And then I started with nothing again and I had a lot. It's all part of the journey, right? But I think if I would have had that one person telling me a little bit in my ear, like, yeah, that's not really a good thing. Don't spend $1,000 on a pocketbook today. So
guys, this has been amazing. This is such a special group of women, and there's so much wisdom right here on the screen. I've gotten so much out of this today. I hope we can do this again. We only have a couple more minutes. So I want to give you all the chance to leave us with one piece of advice in one sentence, if you can do that, for the female entrepreneur looking to grow, to get to the next level, to advance, and how we can get in contact with you for help.
Mine is easy. Wherever you are, don't think about what you're going to get out of the situation. Think about what you're going to give to the situation, and you will grow.
It's beautiful.
How do we connect with you, Dee?
Go on my website. Just call me. Everybody in the world has my phone number all the time. You'll find me. And one thing I will tell you, I'm always approachable if you see me at a conference or whatever, and I don't charge for every little minute. I just don't. So just reach out. Ann knows where
Thank
to
you.
pull Ann.
Yeah, call me.
And what's your piece of advice?
I would say to look for opportunities to build on your strengths. Know your strengths. Love your strengths. Love the God-given talents you've been given, and then look for opportunities that build on those. And then don't stop. Start and don't stop. It's a long journey, but it's worth it.
How do we get in touch with you, Ann?
You can get in touch with me. Just do.life, DEW.LIFE. I'm all over there. And I'm on Instagram and LinkedIn and Facebook. So easy to get in touch with me. And I love to get to know you too.
Manal.
Thank you, Mary. Again, just fabulous to be with all these amazing women, and you put this together just beautifully. Thank you.
Thank you.
Focus on the long-term goal. Don't focus on the minor moments that happen, but focus on the long-term goal, and then dissect that goal into baby steps on how you're going to reach it. So this is going to give you the mission and the steps, the plan to meet your long-term goal. So, every day is going to happen, and what you do every day matters, but focus on that goal. And as an entrepreneur, I would say that. And again, thank you so much for putting this together, guys. And I'm easy to find. I'm on social media everywhere, but manalsampad.com is our website. And look forward to meeting you guys too. And like, Dee and everybody else said, reach out. Seriously, this is who we are. Like, we are not stuck up, or we are not like, seriously, just reach out to us, and happy to chat.
Thank you. Victoria.
Yeah, I would say begin with the end in mind. And I think all of us have said that. And then break that down and identify the skills you need to master. So to be a master business coach, I needed, marketing, finance, emotional intelligence, and take it one step at a time. I call it grow in the pot that you're planted until you're root bound. So don't be too quick to go to the next thing. Just get really root bound and master where you're at today. Because when you become a master in one skill, it'll be recognized by the world and opportunities open up. So it'll be a natural unfolding. Just get root bound and master where you're at today. And I can be reached at victoria@productivedentist.com. I'm all over Facebook. I'm all over Do, and happy to talk to anybody anytime. Reminder, I'm 6 hours behind you in Hawaii. So call me in the afternoon if you're in New Jersey. And I think that's, my doctorate, just to be clear, I'm not a dentist. It's a doctorate in spirituality, because I needed to get really reconnected to my own soul's path. And I encourage everyone to do that work too.
Thanks so much. This was so much fun. I really enjoyed this.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
I think we should all go meet in Hawaii.